Right, hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you the best setups that my team and I have found to reach wave 50 in the new Legend Onslaught. So yeah, if you and your team want to bag yourself this sweet emblem, you'll want to stick around. So without wasting your time, let's get into it. First of all, I do just want to say that right now, farming to wave 50 isn't really the most ideal thing because you don't get any guaranteed shiny drops at the end of wave 50, and because of how the difficulty scales the higher you go, it's not really worth going all the way to 50 to farm for loot. The best way right now that people are sort of catching on to when it comes to farming loot is either going from round 0 to 10. This is on legend mode, of course. So it's either going from 0 to 10 or 0 to 20, because in those levels, it doesn't get too difficult in terms of like light level, and you still get a good amount of loot in a relatively fast time frame. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. But this video is for those people who want to get to level 50, who want the nice emblem, so on and so on. Let's get into it. So our team comp was 2 Warlocks and 1 Hunter. We had 1 Warlock, which was me, on Cenotaph. So this is the first build. I'll just quickly go over what the point is. Obviously, Cenotaph, you guys know how this works. You just use your equipped trace rifle. So, you know, this would be the loadout that I was running when we did it. I had a trace rifle in the kinetic slot, Sunshot. Sunshot is absolutely busted for this activity, by the way. One of the best primaries you can use for Onslaught. I had a rocket launcher to deal with like packs of enemies when we got overwhelmed. I was basically using my trace in combination with Ceno to make tons of bricks for my teammates. I also had heavy ammo finder and heavy ammo scout. These are very important, especially when running a exotic primary. You'll literally be printing ammo. I think it's 1 small brick every 17 kills or so with a Sunshot, and you'll definitely be hitting that number of kills very fast with the amount of ads that come towards you. Fragments wise, with this build, I actually opted to get rid of Icarus Dash because the combo of Touch of Flame and Heat Rises is quite nasty, especially in Onslaught when you're kind of hunkered down. There's not really any need for moving around, so I kind of didn't really need Icarus Dash, and basically the loop was I would consume my grenade to give myself and my teammates restoration ×2, and then I'd just go to town killing things with Sunshot and Apex Predator, and I would literally have constant healing and never die, basically. The rest of the abilities are kind of up to you. I always run Phoenix Dive because when you have Heat Rises, it gives you more restoration ×2 when you use it, and then Fragments. The only really important ones are Singeing, just so you can get your Phoenix Dive back, Ashes to cause the sort of occasional ignition, you know, that can help with ad clear, and Benevolence just to cycle abilities, and Empyrean to extend things like restoration and so on. Yeah, these don't really matter like that much. Obviously they help, but the main thing is just making sure you have Ceno and Incisor, or you know, whatever trace you want to use. I also ended up using a Solar Reserves mod on my chest piece because it gave me 1 extra rocket with Apex to let me carry 8, so that's kind of nice. Arms mods doesn't really matter. Boots, I used a Surge with a Harmonic Scavenger so that I always got more rockets when I went to pick up a brick. The Surge was just so you know I had a little bit more damage on Sunshot, and you might be wondering, aren't you just going to burn through your armor charge? Well, no, I'll explain that in just a moment when we get into the artifact. And then on the class item, special finisher if my teammates are running low. So before we get into the artifact, I just want to quickly go over the other builds. So in our team, we had another Warlock who was using Phoenix Protocol. Now, you could have 2 people using Ceno, but what we found best is having 1 person with Phoenix Protocol was really nice for well chaining, especially with 2 people. You can get them chaining almost back to back. Obviously, you guys probably know what Phoenix Protocol does. When you place your well and you get around, I don't know, 8 kills, it gives you half of your next well back. This is quite nice because you're literally just going to be killing ads all the time, and when the Phoenix well runs out, the other player, the player on the Ceno build, they can place their well, and at that point the Phoenix Protocol player can pick up the orbs from that player, and they'll basically be back to their next well anyway, in combination with all the other kills they'll be getting with something like Sunshot, for example. The mods are mostly the same, obviously having heavy ammo finder and heavy ammo scout. Same stuff on the gloves. Boots, I don't have surges here because I couldn't fit it with the mods, but that's kind of up to you, and the same with the class item and reserves on the chest piece. Just I changed here, I put Icarus Dash on instead of Heat Rises because it's a little less reliable to get a restoration loop going without having like a healing grenade that you can consume. But again, this is kind of up to you. The most important thing is just the exotic piece and the fact that you can chain the wells back to back. Weapons, again, what I would change here is obviously because you're not on Ceno, you could swap this trace for a blinding grenade launcher or disorienting grenades, or you could use a wave frame. It's kind of up to you. For the low rounds, you can definitely get away with a wave frame, and then when it comes to boss damage, you could swap to something like Supremacy, for example. Still, again, using Sunshot and again using Apex Predator. Especially Apex Predator is fantastic. You might see people in other videos videos tell you to use machine guns, and while machine guns are very good for ad clear, so is a rocket. Especially when you're printing infinite ammo, you're never going to run out of rockets really, and if you're doing the bonus objectives, you're going to have those heavy crates which refill you up to max regardless. So you can really be sort of liberal with your rocket usage and use it for ad clear very effectively. So yeah, those are the two main Warlock builds. In terms of like how the Warlocks play together, it really is just the case of the Phoenix player dropping their well, getting their kills, and when their well is finished, you'll just get the Ceno player to drop theirs and then just kind of loop it back and forth, because by the time that the Ceno player's well runs out, the Phoenix one will have his back, and then you can repeat the process sort of over and over and over. Just make sure that if you are the Ceno player, you're marking as many yellow bars as possible. Obviously, you won't be getting as much heavy ammo yourself, but that's why you have Sunshot or like any exotic primary of your choice, really. You have this to make heavy for yourself, and you have the scavengers to get yourself more when you do make it. So now I just want to quickly go over the artifact. This is the most important thing for the Solar Warlocks, because when we talk about Hunter, the artifact doesn't really matter as much. Probably the two most important mods, or the three most important mods, are Blast Radius, because this makes it so when you get kills or multi-kills with rockets, it gives you armor charge just for free. And because we have a rocket on, every rocket that we fire into a big group of ads will completely max out our armor charge, which then feeds into our Solar Surges. It will also feed into Argent Ordnance. Now, Argent Ordnance is going to increase the damage of your rockets by 15% whenever you have Godslayer Warheads, which can be nice for those rounds when you have like the two captains spawn in, or if you have a Tormentor spawn in, or when you're doing damage in the boss phases. Again, we also have Overload Rockets to deal with overloads. Having Overload Rocket basically allows you to one-shot the overloads whenever they come around, so they are literally never a problem. Rays of Precision to cause more ignitions when you're getting headshot kills with Sunshot. Not that this makes a massive difference, but out of all the other options here, you might as well pick this one. Revitalizing Blast for debuffs on like higher health targets, and the rest don't really matter as much. The three main things really are Blast Radius, Revitalizing Blast, or Overload Rockets, and Argent Ordnance. Just make sure you have these two. Okay, so now we're on my Hunter, and to no one's surprise, we are on a Gyrfalcon build. So basically, why is Deadfall so good? Well, obviously because you're defending a point, all the ads are coming to you, and placing a Deadfall Tether in the middle of them is going to be quite beneficial, because it will group them all up, and the damage you do to one will be shared to all of the others, and they'll be suppressed, and so on and so on. You guys know how good Tether is. If you're on a Gyrfalcon build, you guys kind of know the deal already. Prioritize mobility, so you can spam marksman dodges, which let you go invisible more often with Vanishing Step, and then while you're invisible, when you come out of invisibility, you'll have volatile rounds, and you'll go back into invisibility with Stylish Executioner. You guys know the loop already. Fragments, just have Echo of Undermining, very useful for weaken and helping beefier targets take more damage. The rest is kind of up to you. Finishes make you invisible, that's a nice one to have, nice little stat bump as well. Mods wise, again, just make sure you have Heavy Ammo Finder and Heavy Ammo Scout. Then gloves, you can kind of do what you like, just sort of spec into something that gives you orbs or ability energy back. Gyrfalcons, you can spec into resist bonds because you don't really care about ammo here. Boots, I just have stacks on stacks, which will help with Wither Horde and Blast Radius from the artifact. And then on the class item, just have Proximity Ward, Special Finisher. Whenever you're in a pinch, you need to finish something. Weapons wise, Wither Horde is nice if you want to lock down a point where ads are spawning, because you know in Onslaught the ads do tend to spawn out of thin air or from choke points, so you can lock down a choke with Wither Horde. I'm actually using the Recluse here. I have a Repulsor Brace surrounded roll, which for Onslaught specifically is very nice because there are ads everywhere, so you're going to be surrounded all the time, and when using Gyrfalcons, you're going to get overshields constantly when using Repulsor Brace. To accompany this, I have good old Commemoration, probably the best Void LMG in the game. Reconstruction, Killing Tally, massive damage, massive ammo, never have to reload, and it's also pretty decent against bosses. You don't really have to worry about having a rocket on a Hunter because most of your damage will come from like your primary weapons and the sort of AoE potential that you have with Gyrfalcon's Hauberk. Also, the role of the Hunter is also quite important because the Hunter should be the one running around grabbing the ADU batteries while the two Warlocks defend the ADU. It's a lot easier for the Hunter to do it because obviously they can go invisible and they can stay out of harm's way, pick up the battery, throw it back to the ADU. And also like side objectives like the capture points or the moats, the Hunter is very much best suited for those jobs. Right, now I'm just going to roll some gameplay and I just want to talk about sort of general strategy when it comes to Onslaught and sort of investing in going for that wave 50. So the biggest thing that we found is that Vostok is the easiest map to play on because Vostok, first of all, there is lots of differing elevation, which for when you get Tormentor rounds makes it a lot easier to deal with them because their AI is a lot slower when sort of traversing vertical ground, where on Midtown, if you have a Tormentor round, it normally spawns right on top of the ADU, and there's also flat ground everywhere. There is barely any verticality in Midtown, which is why I solely recommend playing Vostok. Vostok is a really nice map, especially because it has some really tight choke points as well. Cosmodrome, for the same reasons, it's very open. I wouldn't recommend playing Legend on Cosmodrome Palindrome. Given that you have the choice between all three, I highly recommend playing on Vostok. When it comes to what to invest in, I would strongly recommend fully investing in decoys right from the beginning, because if you upgrade them to level 3, which is the sort of Shaxx figurine, they have a ton of health. And especially when a Tormentor spawns in, they are going to be laser focused on the decoy, and they will never ever come near the ADU or touch you or like damage your team at all. Especially if the decoy is level 3, it will constantly be focused on the decoy for like a straight 2 minutes. They are very strong at level 3, and I highly recommend having those high level decoys. After you've maxed the decoys, obviously work on turrets after that, because the level 2 and level 3 turrets actually do end up doing a lot of damage to the ads. You will notice it when you have the higher levels, and then when you've run out of upgrades for the turrets, just focus on tripwires. In my opinion, it should be decoys, then turrets, then tripwires. Also, you might be asking, why didn't I recommend having a div for the Tormentors? Well, that's the reason why. Having a level 3 decoy just makes it a lot easier, and the fact that the Tormentor doesn't chase you removes the need to have a divinity to deal with it quickly. You can just have it focus on the decoy, clear all of the ad waves that come along with it, so you have less stress, and then when he's the only thing left alive, you can quickly dispatch him while he's still focused on the decoy. Also, another thing I wanted to mention is that when it comes to the boss waves, because you have a rally flag when you go into the pyramid, you have the option to swap to a damage loadout. You don't have to stick with what you were using for ad clear, because remember, you're there to kill a boss now, you're not there to do any ad clear. You want to try and kill the boss as fast as possible, which is why I would have something like a boot swap available with surges that you can swap to and have like time dilations on your class item, and then you could forfeit, if you're on a hunter, you could forfeit the machine gun for a rocket or a grenade launcher just for that period, because when you come back from the pyramid with your Cenotaph making all of the bricks, you're bound to have tons of heavy left over on the floor, which you can quickly just pick up and be right back up to full reserves in no time. Okay, I think that's everything that I wanted to say, and yeah, so thank you very much for listening, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. One more thing, all three of the builds that I just talked about will have dim links in the description, so check them out below if you want to copy them. If you made it this far, thank you so much. Your support means the world. And if you're really into the content I create, consider becoming a member of the channel, which not only lets you support me in the best way possible, it also nets you a whole host of awesome perks along with it. A massive shout out to these members up on screen, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now, dear viewer.